Alright, welcome back to a new vid. Um, Today I played against Mateusz and we have been playing a few games um, over the last few weeks and in real time, and this game was one of them. Uh, and it took 2 hours, so we both used 1 hour of thinking time, and it's like it was a very, very competitive and very interesting game. So I wanted to show it. Prior to this game, I played him and I got completely destroyed. He had like a god start with three whites, and I had no chance against him. Like I was just getting completely destroyed. Um, and like out of round one, I was already completely lost because I didn't find a good way to play against it. So we agreed to play another game where I start, and yeah, well, that's the start. It does not look very promising. Um, I mean, you're always gonna have an advantage when you do start, but this really doesn't look too appealing. Especially because in the previous game, I tried to build like take a lot of red in the first round, and then I got completely smoked. So yeah, I was not very happy to see a lot of red in this round. But I guess I'm just gonna start it and go through mainly my decisions, um, and explain some of the moves. Yeah, I mean, first move, probably it's probably a good idea to take two red. I was not really sure where I should take them. I mean, it has to be considered to play them in row two, but I didn't really like it that much because I wasn't sure like what's gonna happen with all the blue and gold in the round. Where would I play it? So I committed to actually building column two, or rather, I'm like trying to get some progress on row five because I didn't really know what else to do. Yeah, not a very. I don't really like building like this or like investing too much in bottom rows on my first moves. But here I felt like there wasn't really a great option. So he grabs the gold and is just waiting for me to merge the blues. I didn't really see a way out of it. I've already, like on my first move, I've come to terms that he's just gonna get row 3 blue. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I also didn't see what else I could do. I mean, I could have, if I wanted to get it, I would have had to take a blue in row 3 on my first move, but I didn't really. It felt a little bit too silly, so I didn't do it, and it's pretty much the same here. I could try and contest it, but given that I've already played these reds in row 5, I don't wanna get stuck on that, so I play a rather peaceful move of taking two more red in row 5 again, to maintain flexibility on top rows. He grabs two blue, and yeah, here I wasn't sure. Um, I didn't really like. I don't really know how to play these rounds, or um, it's just very tough. I don't really know what's going on. So I decided to complete my row 5. You could also consider taking a white, but then it might become. Maybe it becomes a little bit more tricky, but maybe it's also just a different move order. Anyway, I decided to commit to completing row 5, just to have a clean board going into the next round, given that I'm not gonna be able to complete row 3 or row 4. Yeah. He takes a blue, which is also pretty standard. And, well, I could consider taking reds in row 2, but that just didn't seem very good to me because I would then be clogged out of red going into the next round. I wouldn't want to play reds in row 3 or row 4, or maybe I'm even clogged on them. So I didn't really regard that as an option. and instead just go for the tiles that are contested. He is not really committed to building mid-column, but it is of course very it is like the very natural way of playing the position for him, because a lot of blacks, a lot of whites remain, and he has no reason to pivot anywhere else. So I'm just contesting these tiles as I need them to, and I believe the whites are going to be a little bit more important, so that he cannot complete his row 4 too easily. I take 1, and he seems to agree and takes white 2. And now my move is also very forced. I can only take 2 black. He takes a black, of course, and yeah, now this is also very tough. I didn't really know how to play this, and I'm still not sure. Well, I basically get to choose what top rows do I pick, and of course I'm mainly looking at taking golds in row 2, because they would be his preferred row 2 for vertical adjacency, but I didn't really like that he would just take 2 red, and then I would have to take blues in row 1, and then my top row setup looks pretty ugly. I wasn't a huge fan of that. It does have the benefit though that I could play golds in row 5, and that my row 2 would be very flexible in both directions. But yeah, I didn't really like building from the edge in my top row. It might be fine, it's probably not a big deal, but I instead decided to allow him the golds, which might be a mistake, but I instead wanted to take reds in row 1. Of course, assuming he would take the gold so that I can get blues in row 2. Which is gonna help a little bit with vertical adjacency for me. Because I can then reconnect the bottom rows. Even though I've already finished reds, I can still lose a lot more points if this is all disconnected. I don't want to go too in depth on how it works, but you can just calculate out how it differs and how many points you can score vertically depending on how you build. But getting your column row 2 is I would say fairly important if you want to score a good amount of points, which is also why I wanted to disrupt his row 2, row 3, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not very good at assessing how good that is or not. And yeah, already out of round 1, it looks like I'm a little bit behind. I mean, he gets row 1, 2, 3, and the token has a small point lead, and all of the tiles that he needs still come out. So it probably went wrong, but it also wasn't very easy to play. Yeah, in this round he takes 2 white. And that's probably already an interesting decision point in terms of what I would want to contest. The main ideas are probably 2 black in row 4, as they're extremely contested, or 2 gold in row 2. And I opted for row 2 gold, mainly to clump the blues, because the blues are a big problem for me in this round if they aren't clumped. It favors me a lot to clump them. I can still play them in row 5, and if he wants to get row 2, he's gonna have to overpay. As the main idea as to why I play golds in row 2 here. Yeah. He takes a white in row 4. Alright, I got interrupted. Yeah, so he takes white in row 4. I mean, he's always gonna have to take a white anyway. because he can't allow me to complete row 3 in this round. And yeah, now I'm just gonna take the blacks in row 4, as they are the most contested color, and also to clump all of the blues, making it even more painful to for his row 2 situation. And yeah, here he decides to just take the blue, which I thought was a bit surprising. But it might also be the play. Even though they're super expensive, he's getting extremely stuck on black, so he probably does not want to concede the token. That's one of the advantages of getting this row 4 black out early, is that you can defend blacks very easily. Right, if I unclog my row 3, I can play blacks in row 3, I can still play blacks in row 1 and 2, blacks in row 5. So one strategical idea for me is to leave him extremely stuck on his row 5, and that can really be problematic, which might be part of the reason why he chose to take all of the blue now. But yeah, I mean, the alternative is that I'm gonna take them in row 5 later, probably, and that's not really great for them either. I mean, at that point they concede row 2, and I don't mind taking the blues in row 5, and I'm gonna have a more straightforward plan if they gave the token to me here. And yeah, as I mentioned, like the one thing I've got going for me in this round or in this game is that he's very stuck on his bottom row. So wanna make it as hard as possible for him to unclog that, and because there are gonna be some issues for him if he doesn't unclog it too soon. So I decide to take a white here because I'm getting into some trouble on whites, and I would at least want to threaten them in row 4 later on, and of course get them in row 1 and 2. So taking that makes a lot of sense, especially without a token in the next round, because I can't really go into round 4 and still being clogged on my column row 3. He decides to take the gold, which is very reasonable. For example, had he taken a black and 1 instead, a black and 5 instead, then I would have ended up getting these golds in row 5, and it would be pretty good for me. So that probably wasn't worth it for him. He instead takes the gold, but I didn't really mind giving him the gold here, as a lot of them still remain. He's extremely clogged on row 5, and he's simply running out of places to put tiles, given that he's already taken row 1, 2, 3 gold. And that's gonna be good for me, I guess. And yeah, I get to deny 2 additional blacks, getting an adjacent row 1. He gets an adjacent row 1. Oh yeah, also about the golds, he does not get vertical adjacency by missing the reds in row 2. I mean, he could still reconnect them and get maximum points, but yeah, that's why they are not as problematic. And yeah, I mean, in this draw he takes blacks in 5. Probably very standard. And my idea for this round is to leave him clogged on row 5. That is once again my main objective. And also like get row 1, 2 and unclog my row 3. Those are my main objectives. Other than that, I don't really have much of a plan here, as there's not much going on. So I start on the most important one, which is to unclog my row 3. And I didn't really mind putting a black in the middle, because if he did merge them, like by, for example, taking 2 white in row 2 or something like that, or blue in row 2 from this platform, I could take 2 black in row 5 and the token, or even take the black in row 2, I mean, depending on what I want to do. And then he would get in real trouble, still needing blacks in row 1, 2, and 5. So I take white. He takes the blue from the middle. And now I grab a top row with a white. That kind of diffuses the row 3 white threat that he's still got, and leaves whites in pairs of 2, which makes it easier for me to threaten whites in 4, for example, and also get some of the gold clumped. When I do take a white in row 1, I'm also threatening to clump 5 gold, which would be great for me. And that seemed like a good idea. He now takes 2 red, and yeah, here I thought I need to get a row 2. I need to still get a row 2 in my remaining moves, and merging 5 golds is gonna be good for me probably, because he can no longer deny them as easily in row 4. The thing is, like, he doesn't necessarily even want the golds in row 4. They're not that good for him, and also he will be completely clogged out of them. So if the next round is gold heavy, might be bad for him. So yeah, I take 2 white. He chooses to take 2 white in row 3. And yeah, this decision, I mean, I already spoiled it. The entire game plan is to not allow the row 5 completion, because he will remain stuck on black in row 1, 2, and 5, and also not be able to make use of his rows effectively when he is clogged out of colors. So I do take blacks here. The only decision that you have to make is to play them or to discard them. And while it looks like I might want blacks in row 2 and row 3 still, much rather than 5, I opt to play them in 5, because I was like worried if I get stuck with the blue that I would have to play them, and I really don't want to play the blue, as there are only 6 remaining and I want them in row 1 and 3 instead. That's gonna be more important. So I play the blacks in 5. And he does take the blue. But yeah, I mean, my plan was, if he takes the gold, I would just discard the blue. It's no longer problematic. And if he does take the blue, to threaten like this big scoring in row 4, that is of course fine too. I can just grab the gold. And yeah, this run is probably one of the most interesting ones, because a lot comes out and it's not really clear how I should navigate it. So first he finally completes his row 5. And there's a lot of red in this round. So how do I navigate it? One easy way for me to win the game would be to give him all of the red in this round. That would be a pretty good idea, but I did not quite see how I can do that and make it work. So on my first move, like I didn't know how to even spend the moves I have in this round. It's very tricky. It's very tricky to like, what am I doing if I'm just trying to clump the red and dump them on him? I can only grab a row 1 and a row 2, and I'll probably have to play moves on row 3 and 4, but given that I'm gonna be stuck on row 5 going into the final round, I would be in a lot of trouble if I have to clog up these rows as well, because I'm not completing a row 3 in this round if it's not with red. So what I figured is that I have to take the reds in row 3. That way 4 reds still remain in the round, and I can then try to either dump the remaining 4 reds on him or take them myself, which is going to be win-win. So that's what I started with. He takes a black and 1. Yeah, now I opted to take a golden row 1 from this platform, mainly to keep adjacency my top row. If I had to take a blue instead, it would be very, very costly, so I really have to get a gold in row 1 in this round. It also clumps the whites, though that might not accomplish that much for me, but yeah, I mean, it seemed like the only reasonable choice I have here. And one thing that might look a little bit worrying is him taking red, but from the platform, but then I would just get 4 black in row 5, and I wasn't too worried that this could be bad for me. So yeah, he instead takes out of the middle, grabs the token also for the final round, and now I have to grab a row 2 myself with the blacks in order to still have good remaining moves and also some good threats going into the final round, because you really have to plan ahead. Like, in a lot of these lines, the main issue for me was that I would end up going into the final round with a very clogged board and no good threats, or even like clogged out of colors, and that's really something you would want to avoid in order to have good scoring in the final round. So I have to make some sacrifices here, and for example not dumping the 2 blacks on him and stuff like that. So take the 2 blacks, because now it's pretty tough for him to play. The reds, he still cannot play them. If he did take the reds, he would also end up having just taking a full floor line, because I would discard the blue and then he would have to choose between the gold and the white, at which point he just has to take the white. So he would get minus 14, which probably isn't worth it. Yeah, so he already tries to avoid that by taking a blue, leaving me with a decision whether I want to discard the gold and let him decide between taking the red or the white, or if I just want to take the red. And of course I'm like trying to set up the color bonus threat for myself, because it's not very convenient for him to deny. Once I take the red, he's of course gonna take the white, and his first move in the next one is probably almost always going to be trying to take out the reds and play them in row 3 to deny this 19-point play I'm threatening in row 2. But it favors me a lot if I at least force that. So yeah, I mean, he could choose to discard the gold, and then I would have to discard the white, but that is of course not worth it, because he would be extremely clogged going into the final round, needing whites in row 1, 2, 3, and he would have no reasonable way of denying my color bonus threat in the next round, which is the big issue for him here, as he cannot play reds in row 5 without clogging himself out of the remaining blue and clogging himself out of the remaining gold. So he has to complete it now and pay -3 for it extra, allowing me to only discard one tile. And yeah, the final round is pretty crazy. The draw, I think it's kind of tough to say how favorable it is for me. Of course, the white distribution is great and really favors me, but the red distribution doesn't. It is more likely that reds come out as 1-1-1 instead of 2-1, and that makes a big difference because if he had to spend 2 moves to deny my row 2, he might not be able to defend it. Whereas if he can deny it in 1 move, he of course can easily defend it. So reds are pretty bad for me, but whites are pretty good for me. So it's a bit of a trade-off. His first move is going to be forced. He has to take 2 reds out. And now the first interesting decision for me already begins. I have to decide if I want to take a red or the whites. And well, the issue is if I take a red, that clumps the blues, and also he could just take 2 whites in row 2. I would then have to probably deny the whites in to not allow him to score all of his top rows, and then he could even make me go last and give me the token and all of that stuff. So that's pretty bad. Maybe I don't have to deny the other whites, but if I let him score in row 1, 2, and maybe 4, then I have no way of competing with his scoring. So instead I'm taking 2 whites in row 4. It's a much more reasonable move, and he's got a pretty interesting decision himself on if he should take this game into round 6 or not. And I think he should have taken a red in row 3. That would have forced me to deny the whites, and then we would have played another round. The benefit for him is that my last moves of this round are not very pleasant, but the downside is also that I'm gonna get the token and that I will have a lot of scoring in the next round. I will probably get this row to red, and that's gonna be worth 19 points. I am threatening a second column, depending on how I play it, maybe another color bonus. So maybe my scoring could compete, but I would be down on points, and probably it would have probably been losing for me. But yeah, instead he takes the whites and ends the game. I get to play a very nice move of taking a blue in row 1, simply ignoring his row 3 red threat. And I'm just trying to work with the 2 blacks in the round. They are my allies because he cannot play them, and if I manage to give them to him, that's gonna favor me a lot as I can't score with them. So here he's got a few options, but none of them really work for him to win the game. If he did take a red from the middle, I could discard a gold, and he would always end up taking 2 black. If he did take the blues afterwards, he would get a full floor line, and if he does not take the blue, I could simply take the blue and give him the black, and I would outscore him. So he either has to take a blue from the middle, in which case I would deny the red, or instead the move that he played, they both result in a tie, is to take 3 blue, giving me the token and denying my row 3. Now he can grab the gold, I can grab a blue, and he still gets discards, but he denies me the row 3 scoring. And that's how I managed to get a tie against him.